as men reach their 60s and beyond, many quietly begin to notice that their once reliable physical performance in the bedroom doesn't feel quite the same anymore. And while some brush it off as just part of aging, a deeper frustration often lingers below the surface, because this isn't just about desire or frequency. It's about feeling vital, masculine, and confident in a body that doesn't always respond the way it used to. And with that shift comes worry, even embarrassment, especially for those who've never talked openly about it before. But the truth is, millions of men over 60 experience changes in sexual performance, including softer erections, slower arousal, and reduced stamina. And what makes it even harder is that these issues are rarely discussed without shame, yet they are incredibly common and often very fixable. And while pharmaceutical solutions like pills and injections are heavily marketed, they rarely address the deeper, natural processes within the body that have begun to slow down. Things like blood circulation, hormone balance, inflammation, and nitric oxide production. And the reality is that the male body, especially after 60, still retains the blueprint for strong, satisfying erections. But that system needs a few key nutrients and signals to switch back on and function optimally. And this is where the concept of one spoon every morning enters the picture, not as a miracle drug, but as a daily ritual that helps restore what time has quietly taken away. Because researchers, urologists, and functional medicine experts have all pointed to the profound impact of certain natural ingredients, especially when consumed consistently first thing in the morning, on testosterone levels, vascular health, libido, and even energy. And among the most powerful and time-tested of these ingredients is raw, unfiltered honey, particularly when combined with a potent compound like L-citrulline or black seed oil, because this combination works on multiple levels to support erectile health, beginning with nitric oxide, the molecule that tells blood vessels to relax and expand, allowing for stronger, longer-lasting erections. And the problem is that as men age, nitric oxide levels plummet, often by more than 50%, which leads to restricted blood flow, poor stamina, and decreased sensation. But when certain natural compounds are introduced that stimulate nitric oxide production, such as L-citrulline, beetroot powder, or the amino acids in raw honey, the body begins to reawaken its ability to send blood exactly where it needs to go. And unlike synthetic drugs that force a short-term effect, these ingredients support a long-term, systemic revival of natural erectile function, which is why so many men who start adding just one spoon of this mixture to their morning routine report not just better performance in bed, but also improved mood, clearer thinking, more energy, and even better sleep, because everything in the male endocrine and circulatory system is deeply interconnected. And when you support one piece, the others often begin to align. And the act of consuming this spoonful each morning becomes more than just a supplement. It becomes a declaration, a signal to your body that you are still invested in your vitality, your relationships, and your quality of life. And while the idea may seem too simple to be true, the science is surprisingly robust, because raw honey alone contains more than 180 beneficial compounds, including enzymes, antioxidants, minerals, and natural sugars that fuel energy and stimulate dopamine release, which is critical for libido and arousal. And when paired with black seed oil, rich in thymoquinone, a compound known for its anti-inflammatory and circulatory benefits, You create a synergistic effect that doesn't just support erectile strength, but improves the entire vascular system from the inside out. And this matters deeply because the penis is essentially a barometer for heart health, and erectile dysfunction is often one of the earliest signs of poor circulation, metabolic issues, or chronic inflammation, all of which can be quietly brewing for years before other symptoms appear. And so when you begin taking this spoonful each day, you're not just improving intimacy, you're actively reversing the small but significant imbalances that affect energy, confidence, and connection. And perhaps the most empowering part of all is that this doesn't require a prescription, an awkward doctor visit, or a complicated routine. It simply requires consistency and the willingness to give your body the tools it needs to work the way it was designed to. Because after 60, your body is still capable of arousal, of erection, of pleasure, and a full, satisfying connection, but only if you support the underlying systems that create those outcomes naturally. And the beauty of this one spoon approach is that it fits easily into your lifestyle, whether you stir it into warm water, drizzle it over oats, take it straight off the spoon, or blend it with other powerful ingredients like ginger, turmeric, or cayenne, each of which adds its own circulatory or anti-inflammatory boost to the mix. And over time, with each passing day that you nurture your body with these ingredients, you begin to notice subtle but powerful changes, not just in the firmness of your erections, but in your confidence, your energy, the way you carry yourself, the way you connect with your partner, and even the way you sleep at night. And that ripple effect continues, reminding you every morning that you're not declining, not broken, not past your prime, but simply shifting into a new phase of life that, with the right support, can be just as passionate and fulfilling as anything you experienced in your 20s or 30s, if not more so. And as this simple yet potent habit begins to take hold, many men start to notice that what initially felt like a minor change in routine, a single spoon each morning, quietly begins to shift much more than just physical performance. Because what this daily ritual really represents is a rebalancing of the body's core systems, especially those most affected by aging, stress, and poor nutrition over time. And among those systems, testosterone production stands at the center, not only as the primary male sex hormone, but as a key regulator of energy, muscle tone, motivation, mood, and of course, sexual desire and erectile firmness. And the problem that silently plagues millions of men over 60 is that their testosterone levels have been declining year after year, often without them realizing it, until the symptoms become too loud to ignore. Things like chronic fatigue, low libido, belly fat accumulation, brain fog, irritability, even depression. And many assume this is just what aging feels like, when in fact it's often a hormonal imbalance driven by stress, poor sleep, a nutrient-poor diet, and the accumulation of toxins and inflammation in the body. But what makes this daily spoon remedy so powerful is that its ingredients are precisely those that nourish the endocrine system, reduce cortisol, which suppresses testosterone, and provide the trace minerals and adaptogens needed for the body to begin recalibrating its hormonal output naturally. And one of the most effective combinations here is raw honey mixed with ashwagandha, a time-tested Ayurvedic herb known for reducing stress, boosting testosterone, and enhancing endurance and libido in aging men. And when taken on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, This combination works at the root level of the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, the hormonal signaling system that tells your body to produce testosterone. And by gently nudging that axis back into balance, you begin to experience more than just physical arousal. You feel sharper mentally, calmer emotionally, stronger physically, and more engaged with life overall. And this is what many men don't realize until they start the practice. Erections are not isolated events. They're the final outcome of an entire symphony of systems working in harmony. And if even one part of that symphony is out of tune, such as poor sleep, high stress, sluggish blood flow, or hormonal dysregulation, the result is softness, inconsistency, or complete erectile failure. But the beauty of a natural, whole-body support system is that it doesn't just mask symptoms like a pill, it tunes the entire orchestra so that arousal, erection, and sexual satisfaction become effortless, responsive, and deeply enjoyable again. And that's why combining other powerful botanicals like maca root, which boosts stamina and increases sperm motility, or fenugreek, which has been clinically shown to elevate testosterone and libido, into your daily spoon can take this ritual from beneficial to transformational, especially when paired with simple lifestyle shifts like a short morning walk in sunlight, which boosts vitamin D and testosterone naturally, or deep breathing practices that calm the nervous system and increase blood flow to the pelvic region. And as these practices begin to build on one another, you start to notice something that isn't just physical. It's psychological, it's emotional, it's relational, because as your erections become firmer and more reliable, your confidence returns. The quiet worry or shame that once crept into your thoughts before intimacy begins to fade, and in its place comes a sense of certainty, of masculinity, of ease in your body. And that ease translates directly into your relationships, your posture, your voice, your energy, and your desire to connect. And this is where the emotional impact of this daily spoon truly comes into focus. Because when you no longer feel anxious about your performance, you begin to rediscover the simple joy of intimacy itself. The way a shared moment of closeness can melt stress. The way touch feels more electric, more present, more free of pressure or fear, and your partner notices too. Not just in the bedroom, but in the way you look at them, the way you initiate closeness, the way you move with presence and assurance. And it's in this return to confidence, to ease, to reliable performance, that many men over 60 find something they didn't even realize was missing. Not just erections, but identity. Because for decades, masculinity has been tied to capability, to strength, to follow through. And when that begins to waver, many men feel unmoored, unsure of who they are without that reliability. But this ritual, this one spoon in the morning, begins to rebuild that identity from within, not as a mask of toughness or bravado, but as a grounded, embodied masculinity that is supported by biology, by nourishment, by the slow and steady return of your body's natural rhythms. And as those rhythms strengthen, as testosterone rises, as blood vessels become more elastic, as inflammation decreases, and as confidence floods back into your daily life, you begin to look in the mirror and see a man not diminished by age, but defined by wisdom, discipline, and renewed vitality. And all of it, all of this powerful transformation, stems from a simple act of giving your body what it truly needs, one spoon at a time, day after day, not as a cure-all, not as a magic bullet, but as a steady, sustainable commitment to the version of yourself that's been waiting to come back to life. And what's even more fascinating is how quickly this daily spoonful, made up of ancient, natural ingredients with centuries of use behind them, begins to create ripple effects throughout the entire body, not only in testosterone production or improved blood circulation, but also in the way the brain begins to rewire its associations with desire, performance, and confidence. Because one of the most overlooked aspects of erectile health after 60 isn't just physical, it's neurological and psychological, rooted in repeated experiences of anxiety, disappointment, or a sense of failure that subtly rewires the brain to expect dysfunction instead of pleasure. And this creates a self-fulfilling feedback loop where the fear of failure produces performance anxiety, which leads to poor blood flow, which leads to softer erections or no erection at all, which then further reinforces the belief that one is incapable or broken. And the cycle repeats, each time etching deeper neural pathways that say I can't instead of I can. But when you begin a daily practice like taking a nutrient-rich spoonful every morning, especially one that includes nitric oxide boosters, hormone stabilizers, and blood flow enhancers, you don't just nourish the body, you interrupt the negative mental loop, because the act itself signals to your brain that you're taking action, that you're invested in your vitality, that you're not surrendering to decline. And with each passing day, as results start to show, more frequent morning wood, stronger erections during arousal, quicker recovery time, and the return of spontaneous desire, your brain begins to lay down new tracks, new expectations, new beliefs that say, this is who I am now. And that mental shift is every bit as important as the physical one, because confidence doesn't begin when things are perfect. It begins when you take consistent action and see even small improvements that tell you your body is listening. And that mindset, that belief that you can still show up, still give pleasure, still feel fully aroused and deeply connected, changes the way you initiate intimacy, the way you respond to your partner, and the way you experience your own body. And what many men begin to realize around the third or fourth week of taking this morning spoon is that their entire relationship with aging begins to shift. Suddenly, age doesn't feel like a decline, but a new stage of power, wisdom, and refined intimacy. And that transformation starts to show up in the little things, like how you touch your partner, how you wake up in the morning, how you carry yourself at the grocery store, how you engage socially. And it's not about pretending to be younger. It's about embodying a sense of vitality that radiates from within. And the ingredients responsible for that inner fire are often simple, humble, and available in your kitchen or local health store. From raw honey that supports insulin sensitivity and fuels libido, to ginger that enhances blood flow and reduces inflammation in the arteries, to cayenne pepper that stimulates circulation instantly, to ginseng that has been used for centuries as a powerful adaptogen that boosts energy, libido, and erectile strength by supporting adrenal function and nitric oxide levels. And when these ingredients are carefully measured and blended into a single spoonful, taken consistently each morning before breakfast, they act like kindling on a fire that has only gone dim, not gone out. Because the male body, even after 60, even after chronic stress or years of stagnation, retains the full capability to experience powerful, long-lasting erections and deeply satisfying sexual pleasure. if given the right support. And one of the most powerful outcomes of this process is the restoration of spontaneous desire. Not the kind of chemically triggered libido that fades after a pill wears off, but the natural kind that bubbles up in the middle of the day that makes you want to reach out to your partner, that leads to playful moments and quiet touches and knowing glances that reignite long-standing relationships with a sense of newness and surprise. And when this happens, when you start feeling that desire return, not forced, not scheduled, not medicated, but organic and alive, it feels like getting a piece of yourself back, not just for sex, but for life itself. Because desire is energy, and when energy flows freely again through the body and mind, everything feels sharper, more meaningful, and more worth showing up for. And your partner notices it too. Not just the physical performance, but the way you become more present, more attentive, more attuned. And the irony is that this transformation doesn't come from doing more, working harder, or stressing about outcomes, but from doing less, from focusing on the basics, on what your body actually craves: nutrients, circulation, hormonal balance, mental clarity, emotional safety. And this daily spoon becomes the anchor around which all of that begins to realign. And the real secret is not just what's in the spoon, but the consistency with which you take it, because your body thrives on rhythm. And when you start each morning with a small but powerful act of self-respect, that energy builds over time. And within a few weeks, you go from hoping something will change to knowing that it already is. And from there, things accelerate. Your erections become stronger, your recovery faster, your energy more sustainable, your emotions more balanced, and your entire relationship to aging begins to change, not because the world around you has changed, but because you've chosen to reclaim your role as the caretaker of your body, your pleasure, and your well-being. And that daily spoon is no longer just a tool for better erections. It's a quiet revolution that starts each morning with a single, deliberate, life-affirming choice. And as this steady transformation continues, what begins as a simple spoonful of natural support each morning evolves into something far more meaningful. A quiet but profound reminder that your body, no matter how many years have passed or how many doubts you've collected, is still capable of returning to balance, strength, and pleasure when given the right tools and a bit of daily care. Because what this habit unlocks is not just the physical ability to have strong, full erections, but the emotional confidence to know that your masculinity has never left you. It was simply waiting for nourishment and attention to rise again. And once that shift occurs, everything in your relationship to intimacy changes. Not just with your partner, but with yourself, because intimacy, especially after 60, becomes less about performance and more about presence, more about depth and shared joy and comfort in your own skin. And it's in these small daily moments of discipline, taking that spoon, breathing deeply, trusting the process, that a deeper transformation unfolds. One that doesn't just affect the bedroom, but reaches into every part of your life. Because when blood flow returns, so does energy. And when testosterone balances, so does your sense of purpose. And when you stop fearing your body's aging process and begin working with it, honoring it, you stop feeling like you're slipping away from your prime and instead realize that this might be your true prime, the stage of life. When you know your body better than ever, when your mind is clear, your time is yours, and your desires are finally aligned with emotional maturity and real, lasting connection. And for many men, this is the most surprising benefit of all. Not just that their erections return stronger and more consistent, but that they feel more emotionally alive, more sensitive in the best way, more capable of giving and receiving love than they ever were in their youth. And that's not just a nice side effect. That's the point, because after years of rushing, of suppressing emotion, of pushing through stress without pause, this daily spoon becomes a gateway to remembering that strength and softness are not opposites, that desire and tenderness can coexist, and that real masculinity means knowing how to nourish yourself as deeply as you care for those around you. And as that awareness deepens, the ingredients you once measured out mechanically, raw honey, black seed oil, ashwagandha, maca, ginger, cayenne, begin to feel like sacred allies, like tools not just for stimulation but for transformation. And even your partner begins to feel it, not just in the quality of your intimacy, but in the way you touch them, hold them, listen, respond, and lead with calm confidence instead of insecurity or pressure. And in that space, the bedroom becomes not a place of anxiety or obligation, but a sanctuary, a space of play and exploration and trust, where erections are no longer a question mark, but a source of strength and connection, and where both of you feel the safety to express your needs, to laugh again, to rediscover the joy of slow touch, of eye contact, of letting the moment stretch out without any rush to finish. And all of it, was sparked by one small decision each morning, a decision that told your body, your mind, your spirit that you are not giving up, that you are not willing to live the rest of your life feeling half alive, that your sexuality, your energy, your pleasure still mattered. And that message echoes not only in how you feel, but in how others respond to you. Because confidence has a smell, a rhythm, a gravity that people notice. And when you begin to walk taller, speak more clearly, move with purpose, and show up in your life with renewed energy, the world responds in kind. And suddenly you're no longer the man quietly fading into the background. You're the man who made a decision to take his health, his pleasure, and his identity seriously, and who followed through, one spoon at a time, day after day, until the evidence became undeniable. Not just in erections, but in your skin, your voice, your clarity, your interactions, and most of all, in your sense of self, because it's never been about just sex. It's always been about power. Your power to take back control, to rise above the silent losses of aging, to say yes to life in every possible way. And so when you reach for that spoon tomorrow morning, know that you're doing more than just starting your day. You're reigniting your body's natural brilliance, reminding your system that it still knows how to respond, and claiming your place in the second half of life, not as a man slowing down, but as a man rising into his fullest, most vital self. And if you do that, if you stay consistent, if you listen to your body and treat it with the respect it deserves, what you'll discover is not just a better erection, but a better life.